Did you know one of the most disturbing emergency calls ever recorded came from a house that technically had no active phone line? Later, described the call as wrong from the very first second. Slow. Uneven. Close to the receiver, not the kind of static you hear from a weak connection. Not background noise. It sounded like someone trying not to be heard. For several seconds, there was nothing. Then a child's voice whispered, barely audible, "He's still here." The operator immediately shifted tone, keeping her voice calm. She asked for the address. She asked who he was. She asked if the child was safe, but the only response was the same sentence, repeated in a shaky whisper. The operator leaned closer to her headset. She later reported hearing what sounded like faint movement in the background. A soft scrape, possibly a footstep. She asked again for the address. As required in silent or child in distress calls, officers were dispatched immediately. The system traced the signal to a small single-family home on the edge of town, a property with no prior emergency history. When patrol units arrived within minutes, the house was completely dark. No porch light. They knocked several times. Inside, what they found made no sense. Dust coated every visible surface. A thin layer of dirt lined the hallway floor. Mail was stacked near the door unopened, dated nearly 5 months earlier. There were no signs of forced entry. Neighbors, awakened by the flashing patrol lights, came outside and confirmed that the family who once lived there had moved away almost 6 months earlier. One neighbor specifically remembered the moving truck. Utility records were pulled. Electricity had been disconnected 5 months prior. Water service had been shut off shortly after. Most importantly, the landline had been officially disconnected 7 months earlier. Investigators initially assumed there must have been a technical explanation, a routing error, a cellular misdirection, or some kind of digital malfunction. But phone company data revealed something deeply unsettling. The call had originated from inside that house. Not rerouted. Not spoofed. Not spoofed. Not transferred from another number. The signal was transmitted directly from the property's internal wiring. Telecommunications experts reviewed the trace logs. They confirmed the switchboard registered the call from that physical address. There was no evidence of outside interference or hacking. Forensic teams combed through every room. They searched for hidden mobile devices, prepaid phones, or unauthorized wiring. Nothing. They dusted for fingerprints. Only old, degraded prints matching previous residents. They tested for recent footprints. None. They checked the attic, the basement, the crawl spaces. No one was there. No signs that anyone had been there recently. And yet, the 911 call recording contained something investigators could not ignore. During the final seconds, just before the line went dead, audio enhancement revealed a second voice in the background. Much deeper, almost too faint to notice, but clear enough when isolated. The word, stop. It was not the child's voice. It was not the operator's voice. It was not distortion. Independent audio analysts later confirmed that the second voice existed on the recording before compression, meaning it wasn't an artifact created during digital storage. The presence of that second voice complicated everything. If the house was empty, who said stop? Detectives tracked down the family who had previously lived there. They had relocated several states away and reported no unusual incidents before moving. They had no children matching the voice's apparent age at the time of the call. The case widened. Investigators examined whether anyone could have illegally accessed the property. No broken locks, no signs of entry. Could someone have briefly entered and exited without detection? Possibly, but unlikely within the short response time between the call and police arrival. Could an old, disconnected landline still make emergency calls? Telecommunications specialists confirmed that in rare circumstances, some analog lines may still connect to emergency services even after formal disconnection. However, this typically requires residual infrastructure and does not explain how the call trace was so precisely logged to that address months after full service termination. The case was eventually labeled unexplained due to technical inconsistencies. There was no evidence of a crime scene, no missing person connected to the property, no sign of forced occupancy, and yet the recording remained. Today, that call is archived and occasionally used in dispatcher training sessions, not as a paranormal case, but as a reminder of how to handle silent or child distress calls. Operators are trained to stay calm, to listen closely, to never assume a disconnected line means no emergency. But even within training discussions, the unanswered question lingers. Who was the child? Who said stop? And how did a call come from inside a house that had no active phone line, no electricity, and no residents? Locals say the property remained vacant for years afterward. Potential buyers reportedly withdrew interests after learning about the incident, though officials never labeled it anything beyond a technical anomaly. The story circulated quietly. Some claim that if you stand outside that house just before 2 a.m., the air feels heavier. No confirmed sightings, no further calls. Just one archived recording. One whisper, "He's still here," and a system log that says the call came from inside an empty house.